All right, so we're diving into English fluency today.
Oh, yeah.
We've got this really interesting podcast script we're looking at,
Cool.
and it's all about, helping people become more confident English speakers.
Awesome.
But it's not about being perfect.
No, not
Like
at
they're not
all.
pushing for, flawless grammar or anything like that.
Right. It's more about, like you said, confidence, communicating your ideas naturally,
Yeah,
not sounding like a robot.
exactly. So it's like they're redefining what fluency really means.
I think that's a great way to put it because, there's this idea out there that fluency means speaking perfectly.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's more about being able to express yourself clearly and effectively.
And you know what? I think that actually takes a lot of pressure off.
Oh, absolutely.
Because when you're not so worried about every little mistake, you're more likely to just speak up and practice.
Exactly. The research actually shows that focusing on fluency over accuracy can lead to faster progress.
Interesting. So how does this script suggest we actually achieve this more natural, confident fluency?
Well, the first step they highlight is think in English.
Okay, that sounds pretty straightforward. But how do you actually make that happen?
Right, it's not like you can just flip a switch.
Exactly.
But they offer some really cool techniques. For visual learners, they suggest labeling objects around your home in English.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's like turning your everyday environment into a giant vocabulary list.
It's like a little English treasure hunt throughout your day.
Exactly. They also suggest having inner dialogues in English.
So like talking to yourself in your head.
Yeah, even if it feels a little silly at first, and if you enjoy writing, journaling in English can be really helpful.
Those are great ideas. And I can see how they would all help to immerse your brain in the language,
Definitely.
even when you're not actively speaking with someone. But speaking of speaking out loud, the script emphasizes speak every day as the next step, right?
Yes, and they recognize that not everyone has a speaking partner readily available.
Right. That's a common challenge.
So they encourage you to use those moments when you're alone to practice.
Like talking to yourself in the mirror.
That's one way, but it can feel a little awkward.
It can.
Have you ever tried the shadowing technique?
Shadowing. Now that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
Basically, you find audio from native speakers, like a podcast or an interview,
Okay.
and you become their shadow voice. You listen closely and repeat what they say.
Ah, so you're trying to match their pronunciation and intonation.
Exactly. It's a really fun way to tune your ear to the nuances of the language.
That makes sense. And there are tons of free materials online for shadowing, right?
Oh, yeah. Tons, TED Talks, interviews, even scenes from your favorite movies.
Cool. And that ties in nicely with the script's emphasis on immersion, right?
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible.
Like watching movies, YouTube channels, listening to podcasts.
All of that, reading too, blogs, novels, anything that interests you.
So if someone loves cooking, they could find English language cooking shows and recipe blogs.
Exactly. It's about making the language a part of your life, not just something you study in a textbook.
I love that.
It should be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Engaging a natural part of your day.
Totally. So we've talked about all these different ways to, improve our fluency,
Yeah.
thinking and English speaking every day, immersing yourself in the language.
Right.
But I think one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of people, myself included,
Uh-huh.
is the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah. That's huge.
It could be really intimidating to try to speak a new language.
Absolutely. Especially when you're worried about, sounding silly or saying the wrong thing.
Exactly. Does this script offer any advice on how to overcome that fear?
It does, and it's actually really reassuring. It reminds us that native speakers are usually more focused on understanding the message
Yeah,
than on every little grammatical error.
that makes sense. I mean, we're all trying to communicate.
Right, and most of the time people are just happy to understand what you're trying to say.
But I think sometimes it's hard to shake that feeling of self-consciousness.
I totally get it. But think about it this way. Even native speakers make mistakes sometimes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The important thing is to not let that fear stop you from speaking at all.
So it's about pushing through that discomfort and focusing on getting your message across.
Exactly, and that's where confidence comes in. The script actually emphasizes that confidence trumps perfection.
That's a good point.
Speak clearly, speak with energy, and don't be afraid to keep talking, even if you stumble over a word or two.
Yeah, don't get stuck in your head overthinking the grammar.
Right, just keep the conversation flowing. It's like learning to dance. You're going to step on some toes at first.
Ha! I love that analogy.
But the more you practice, the smoother your moves will become.
Okay, so we've covered thinking in English speaking, daily immersion, and conquering the fear of mistakes. But the script also mentions something called a challenge of the week.
Yes, it's basically a way to put all these tips into action.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's super simple. You pick a topic, any topic that interests you.
Right?
It could be your daily routine, a hobby you're passionate about, or even just something that happened to you recently.
Okay.
And then you record yourself speaking about that topic for a couple of minutes.
Like giving a little mini presentation to myself.
Exactly. But the key is to then listen back to that recording with a critical ear.
So really paying attention to how I sound.
Yeah. Where do you hesitate? Do you stumble over any words or phrases? Are there any grammatical structures that trip you up?
That's a good idea. Because sometimes we don't even realize those things when we're speaking.
Right. And once you've identified those areas for improvement, you can re-record yourself.
Focusing on those specific points.
Exactly. Maybe you slow down a bit to pronounce a tricky word correctly, or you consciously try to use a grammar rule you've been studying.
And you just keep repeating that process until you feel more comfortable and fluent in your delivery.
The script recommends doing this every day for a week.
Wow. So in just 7 days, you could see some serious progress.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging. But what about those times when you hit a plateau or you just feel stuck? How do you stay motivated when the going gets tough? Because I think that's something a lot of language learners struggle with.
You're absolutely right. And while the script doesn't lay out a step-by-step plan for staying motivated, it does suggest reframing the learning process as something enjoyable.
Instead of a chore.
Exactly. It should be fun.
But how do you actually make language learning fun? It's easy to say, but harder to do.
Well, think about what you enjoy doing in your native language.
Okay.
Do you love watching movies? Find a genre you like in English with subtitles?
I see.
Are you a podcast addict? Start exploring English language podcasts on topics that interest you.
So weave English into the activities you already enjoy.
Exactly. Like if you love cooking, find an English language recipe blog or YouTube cooking show and cook along.
That's a great idea. And you're learning new vocabulary and improving your listening comprehension without even realizing it.
Exactly.
That's like sneaking in a language lesson.
Exactly. And another helpful strategy is to find a language learning partner or join a language exchange group.
Oh, that's a good one, because learning with others can be so much more fun and motivating.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of setting realistic goals.
Instead of aiming for native-like fluency overnight.
Right. Break down your learning journey into smaller, more achievable milestones.
So like aiming to learn 5 new words a day, or being able to have a short conversation with a native speaker.
Exactly. Those small victories can really boost a motivation.
Okay, so we're making it fun, connecting with others, setting realistic goals, and celebrating those small wins.
Right.
Anything else we should keep in mind when it comes to staying motivated?
I think it's important to remember that language learning is a journey, not a destination.
I love that perspective. It takes the pressure off of reaching some perfect end goal.
Exactly. And it allows you to simply enjoy the process of learning and growing.
But how do we actually apply that journey mindset to our everyday lives?
Well, for one, be kind to
Oh,
yourselves.
that's so important.
Learning a language takes time and effort.
It does.
It's okay to have days when you feel less motivated or you make more mistakes than usual.
Yeah, we all have those days.
Don't beat yourself up about it. Just acknowledge that progress isn't always linear.
Sometimes it feels like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
Exactly. It's like those waves that come and go on the ocean.
Oh, I like that.
You ride the high ones when they come and you weather the low ones knowing that another high wave is on the horizon.
And one thing that can help you ride those waves more smoothly is to make language learning a part of your daily routine.
Absolutely. Make it a habit.
I hear that advice a lot, but I think a lot of people struggle with actually implementing it. Yeah, it's easy to say make it a habit,
Right.
but how do you actually do that?
Well, one of the best ways to make language learning a consistent part of your life is to create a language learning plan.
Okay, so like a plan.
Yeah,
But I'm not always the best at, sticking to plans.
I hear you. It doesn't have to be anything super rigid or
Yeah.
complicated. Think of it more like a flexible roadmap to
Yeah.
guide you on your fluency journey.
Right, roadmap. That sounds less scary. So what are the key elements of this roadmap?
Well, the first thing is to set clear and specific goals.
Okay,
What do you want to achieve in the next week, month, year?
so not just like, I want to be fluent.
Right, because that's too vague.
Yeah,
Break it down into smaller, more measurable milestones.
so I might say, I want to be able to have a 5-minute conversation about my hobbies in English.
Exactly, that's a great goal. It's specific and achievable.
Okay, so clear goals, first step.
Then you need to honestly assess how much time you can realistically dedicate to language learning each week.
Be honest with myself about my schedule.
Yes, because if you try to do too much too soon, you're more likely to burn out.
Right, start small.
Exactly. Maybe 15 minutes a day or an hour a few times a week.
And then adjust as you go.
Right. Once you've got your goals and your time commitment figured out, then you can choose the resources and methods that work best for you.
So all those things we talked about before, apps, online courses, textbooks, language partners.
Exactly. It's about finding what clicks for you.
Yeah, some people love the structure of a textbook. Others prefer a more interactive approach, like an app.
And you can mix and match, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
You might use an app for vocab, but then go to a conversation group to practice speaking.
So it's really about creating a personalized learning journey.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Okay, so goals, time commitment, personalized methods. What else should we be thinking about?
Don't forget to schedule regular review sessions.
Yeah, because it's not just about learning new things.
Right, you have to revisit what you've already learned.
To make it stick.
Exactly. Repetition is key in for at least one review session per week.
And how should we approach those review sessions?
Make them interactive. Don't just reread your notes.
Okay.
If you're learning vocab, create flashcards or use a quiz app.
So actively engage with the material.
Yes. The more active you are, the better you'll remember.
Makes sense. And of course, we have to track our progress and celebrate our achievements.
Yes, definitely. Give yourself credit for all the hard work you're putting in.
Because even small wins can be really motivating.
Absolutely. So to wrap up,
Yeah.
remember that language learning is a skill that can enrich your life in countless ways.
It can open so many doors.
It can. So embrace the journey, be patient with yourself, and never lose sight of those amazing possibilities.
I love that. This deep dive has been so inspiring.
I'm glad to hear it.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for my English fluency journey.
And you're ready to use it.
I am. Thanks for this awesome conversation.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
To all our listeners out there, keep those fluent minds engaged and keep exploring the world of language.
The world is waiting to hear your voice.